Okay, so I found this article here, and this wasn't the only article that I found. There were others. And the way China is handling this COVID, the new variant, Omni, I believe it's Omicron, they're handling it a lot serious. And that is what the conflict is with the U.S. I believe here it's holiday time. People have gathered. We had Thanksgiving, and people are more concerned about the economy and having money and trying to build back some of these businesses that have all of a sudden seen a lot of customer activity since the holidays. For the first time, they reported that there were more people that were going out and shopping rather than shopping online for Black Friday. And what I do know is that I seen a conflicting article opposed to this one that I'm looking at right now and that you could see, where it was saying that this new variant that originated out of or was tracked out of southern Africa, they claim that some physician or someone was saying that they had a few people that had contracted it and that the symptoms were mild. Well, this article is not treating the symptoms as if it's something to not really be alarmed about. Shanghai canceled over 500 flights, closed schools, and suspended hospital services because three COVID-19 infections. Now, they have a zero tolerance policy. So they're a lot more stricter, and I think they handle this a lot more seriously than the US does. And that's the reason why we have had so many deaths happen so often as they did once this thing started to spread. Now, from what I've heard so far, is that this variant it spreads a lot quicker than the previous variants. And there's also other ones that have mutated out of this one. And so what they're trying to do is water things down, I believe, because as soon as they had put travel bans in place for the places where they're the epicenter of this new variant, because I guess they want to use somewhat of precaution, they started watering down some of the articles. So I quickly witnessed where they were trying to smooth things over because they don't want to, mind you, this is the holidays, they don't want to create too much panic. And when we had 2020, you saw how people would crowd the stores and they would they would get like a large supply of tissue and water, and the lines were longer. Well, this is holiday shopping and this is holiday time, and people are not really focused as much on the virus as they are on their holiday season. And some people were just able to meet relatives that they hadn't seen in maybe over a year. And so I believe they didn't want to really create great alarm, but then also they're looking at the economy and the impact that it had in 2020 and the beginning of 2021. And then all of the people that had left jobs, and then unemployment issue, and how the evictions even now are still impacting people. People are still, money is funny, and our economy is fragile. And I believe the reason why they were trying to get everybody inoculated, because not so much the fact that people look at this, oh, they're trying to save lives. I believe they were trying to save the economy, because they know you can't have a bunch of sick people at work, and if people are that sick, they're not going to be productive, they're not going to be able to work. So here, this is a lot different than what they were saying, so Shanghai canceled over 500 flights, closed schools, suspended hospital services because of 3 COVID-19 infections. And the more I read, it'll explain. Now, this doesn't look like something that is a mild infection. And if it is, they're taking it a whole lot serious, more serious than what we've been told by other people. And so this is by Matthew Lowe, and this doesn't look like I mean, if you just look, come on now. If it was that mild, think about it. Some people, when they get infections or they get a virus, some people may be asymptomatic. It may not do them as much harm. And then the next person, they can end up on their back, or they can end up in the ER or on life support. And so maybe that's why China and Shanghai, they're taking this a lot more serious because they've seen the potential in this. And then an article previous to this that I was looking at, their mathematicians and their scientists basically were saying that this, if it's not this one or the ones that have mutated from it, they said if they were to open up like the US and France did, that they would see such a spike and a rise, a colossal issue with infection of COVID to the magnitude of 630,000 people a day getting infected. So that sounds like it's not only a pandemic, that it's apocalyptic, and it's something we've never seen before. And so if something that is supposed to be something we're not supposed to be worried about, and it's supposed to be so mild, why would China and Shanghai be this on alert for something like this? So I feel my point that I'm making is they're not telling us everything. And so they're trying to keep or withhold information that is probably very vital that we would need to know to prepare for what could happen. So Shanghai, China canceled over 500 flights and locked down several residential areas over 3 COVID-19 cases. Why would you have to do all of that for only 3 cases? So there must be something more to this. So 20 hospitals also suspended outpatient and emergency medical services for 3 days. And so the sweeping response, this is how they explain it, as part of China's strict COVID zero tolerance policy. Why would you be so strict about it to begin with? Why? Okay, if it was just mild symptoms. So Chinese financial hub Shanghai canceled hundreds of flights, closed schools, suspended tourism programs on Friday after 3 locally transmitted COVID-19 cases emerged in the city. So according to the municipal government statement, the 3 positive cases were friends from the nearby city of Suzhou. Now, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Or Suzhou. So I may not have pronounced it correctly. So forgive me for that. Now, this is who had attended a lecture about ancient architecture last week. So these are people that they were minding their own business and they were at a lecture and they weren't sick and they somehow contracted this virus. So they were in close contact with almost 200 people, prompting 20 hospitals to suspend outpatient and emergency medical services for 3 days out of caution, per the statement. And so all 3 of the travelers, now listen to this, they were travelers. They were fully vaccinated. Authorities also said this. So the restrictions are part of Beijing's COVID zero policy, China's attempt to completely stamp out any trace of the coronavirus within a border through swift lockdown and curbs. So around 30% of the flights from two of the Shanghai major airports were canceled following the discovery of these infections on Thursday, per local media outlet. So, The Guardian estimated more than 500 flights were canceled, citing data from the flight tracking site VeriFlight or VariFlight. So Shanghai authorities also told travel agencies to suspend all the city tours or travel programs to other provinces. Local outlet. Now, this is Yakai Global reported. And so the city, which has a population of 24.9 million residents, also locked down several residential compounds believed to have a higher infection risk. And this was reported out of Reuters. And so China has accumulated lots of epidemic prevention experience in the dynamic COVID zero. So our strategy won't change. And so Zhang Wenhong, the head of Shanghai's Pandemic Prevention Task Force, in a media briefing on Thursday. So, in the future, this will become a normalized epidemic prevention scene. So, they already are basically telling us that we're going to see this for a long time. So, that's the other thing. The other thing they tell us is that it infected, these are not people who were not vaccinated. These were people who were vaccinated. That's the other thing. And if there are mild symptoms, then why are you treating it so serious? You know why? Because these are people that were vaccinated that you thought would not get sick. So the symptoms might not be mild for everyone. So that's what I'm getting out of this, and that we're not being as transparent to our own people here in the U.S. because we're so concerned about bruised feelings and egos, because we know what happened when they had imposed the lockdowns here and they started imposing their protocols, and people started fighting, they started arguing. You had governors that were going back to back against one another. There was a lot of division created, and we still have that. It's just right now nobody's really saying anything because they don't want anything to be messed up in terms of their normality and pretending like there's no pandemic. So in the future, this will become a normalized epidemic. You hear that, right? So the prevention scene in the autumn and winter. So this is something that'll be around for a while. And we will see a lot of this. So similar situations, those of us that are still here, depending on how it treats some people's bodies, I assume, similar situations will happen in the future, said Zhang, adding that the city's focus now is to reduce its pandemic response disruption to residents' lives. Okay, so the last time Shanghai discovered a domestically transmitted COVID-19 case was when it had closed the city's Disneyland after a case was discovered Halloween night, and more than 30,000 visitors were trapped in the park and underwent COVID testing before being allowed to leave. They are very strict, their zero policy. And so that's one thing to also look at. And by them being as strict as they are, why would you be so strict if it was mild? Think about it. If it's not that big of an alarm, then why do you have to go to the great lengths to cancel all these flights and do this? And so think about it. If we're supposed to sit back and not worry about this as much as the way some of these articles come out and say, oh, it's mild symptoms, because we're more concerned about the economy, we're more concerned about people going back to work, we're more concerned about not so much people's lives. Yes and no, because we need the workers, because a lot of people that don't want to do those jobs, we need somebody to do it. But we're more concerned about Also not locking down, and then the business owners, the lawsuits, and all of that. And so we're not really thinking that this could be so bad to where, from what I had heard, that if it was to get out, if it's so transmissible, so infectious, that it could be so bad that 630,000 people a day could catch this. And you mean to tell me 630,000 people each day catching this, and it's going to be only mild symptoms? Think about everybody having mild symptoms and nothing happening. They're functioning like normal. That's not the way life is. Some people are going to maybe not show symptoms. Some people are going to have mild symptoms, and then others might end up having to be intubated. So they're concerned about it for a reason. They didn't cancel 500 flights and close schools and suspend hospitals for no reason apparent. There's something they saw, and they've been warning the U.S., and the U.S. is being quiet about it because they don't want anybody to get into a fight or worry, and they're trying to study this stuff, but they're slow about things, just like they were slow about putting out the vaccine. And, you know, it's true. The same thing about the sickness of catching the virus. Some people have mild symptoms and others end up dead. The vaccine, let's be honest here. Some people, it might not do nothing to them. It might not make them sick. Others, they might have a reaction and it might be really severe. They might get sick, maybe even die. And so that's what they're not telling. And so they've been being quiet. Oh, it's not going to harm you. It's not going to hurt you. Everybody's body is different. That's what I'm seeing. Everybody's body is different. And so what one thing does to one person's body might not happen for that person. And then the next person might experience where they're in the hospital in the ER, maybe they're on life support. And that could be because they have other underlying health issues. And so they did say that. They did say that some people that have other underlying health issues possibly could end up in the hospital or worse, or maybe end up deceased. And so we did see a lot of that. Maybe age has a factor. It could be a number of things, a laundry list of issues. So I feel like this is the thing here. They don't really know all of the answers, but every hour they're learning it as they go along. And they're trying to gather enough information so that they can put at least enough out to warn people. That's why Dr. Fauci, he was basically saying, he said, be ready for whatever or whatever you have to do. And so he keeps reiterating hand washing and wearing the mask and trying to stay safe as possible, because those are like the minimal precautions that you can use. It's not what you call uh, the silver bullet that's going to keep you, A, protected. You're going to not get it if you wear the mask and if you wash your hands. Because we know, like, just a regular common cold, you can still get that. That's a virus. A lot of people get that. And some people can get a cold and they might be sick and they might be in the bed for a couple of days. Other people get a cold, they have it for a little bit, and then boom, it's gone. They take some kind of over-the-counter something. And then you might have another person who they might have other illnesses and they're immunocompromised. They get a cold. Now they're in the hospital. They got pneumonia and they die. So I feel like that's the way these infections is a crapshoot. You don't know who's going to have a worse impact. And I believe because this is so transmissible, the more people get it, also there's a more higher risk of mortality, like death. Because if you have all the sickness out here, you have more people sick than you do well. And so it just keeps, the virus just keeps passing. And so some people are not going to be able to bounce back from it as well as others. And so that's the fear. So that's why they had the vaccination shots, because that they were hoping that they would have something where they could build up some immunity in people, where they'd be able to, withstand some of this. But these shots, these vaccines, are probably, for the first or second or third wave that came. And now you have all these other mutations out. They're not really saying how many of them are out. I believe it's a lot more than what we're hearing. And this new one that they say, it's the reason why it made the headlines is because it's moving fast. It's spreading quickly. That's why. So they want to keep an eye on it because they don't know if this thing is going to be the actual one that really puts a lot of people at a disadvantage, to where they end up, you know, the hospital systems are so fragile because of what happened in 2020. And it's not like that can't happen again. And they already know that this thing is not going away overnight. And it's going to be with us. It's going to remain with us because we have so much misinformation and indifference and different opinions and beliefs and all of these things. And so that's the reason why this thing is not going to go away. But the fear is that if we have something that moves as fast, as rapid, as spread that this one does, one of them, if not more than one of them, could be the one that might be a lot more dangerous than some of the others. And I know some people look at it, the half, how do they say, the glass half empty, glass half full. Well, I think you have to look at it from both ends. You know, they are looking at it as like, well, maybe if it just keeps mutating, then the virus will get weaker. Then you have others that'll say, no, it'll build up a lot of immunity to the vaccines and the virus will become stronger and be able to bypass the vaccines. And then possibly it'll mutate into something a lot more worse where it'll be harder to contain. So I believe it's a crapshoot on all of this. And so they're like pondering, what are we going to do? We can't have like 630,000 people a day getting sick or 400, more than 400,000 people a day getting infected with this. And then next thing you know, some people start dying. Maybe millions start dying. And that's what their fear is. Because, you can't run an economy when you don't have people running. When you don't have people working, because the majority of this economy is reliant on the workers, of people being alive and being well enough to work. And so that's the reason why they put out those vaccines, hoping that people will build up enough immunity. That's why they cut off the EDD, because they wanted to force people back to work. And the EDD was not what was really the problem. They realized that. Because you can only receive so much for so long. But then you got to look at things too. If some people were getting more money from EDD and not their jobs, look at that situation too. So people were talking about that. And you have a lot of people that were making decisions. Where could I work where I could actually have a sustainable living situation? Because the pay that I'm getting is not actually going to sustain me. The rent is higher, the food is higher, healthcare is crazy. If you have healthcare, and then some of these jobs don't have good benefits, if they have benefits at all. And so people are really evaluating their livelihoods. And so that's the reason why this thing is as serious as it is in terms of that. But, there's so much fighting from politicians here that they're trying to keep a lid on this, because if this thing is bad, they don't want to create the panic that we had earlier on in March of 2020, where people were like, oh my God, we got to get out and get water, we got to get tissue and this, that, and the other, because that's a normal, natural human instinct, is to protect your family and yourself, because you want to sustain your life and prolong it as long as you can so that you can ride this thing out. But the thing is that what's frustrating is that they're not as completely transparent to the people here. They kind of wait till the last minute to let people know things, and then that's when you see all this death. And that's kind of what happened in the beginning. They knew this was coming. And then, boom, we were just kind of hit with it. And then you saw these people just kind of like dropping like flies. But I don't feel like it was enough. Here in the U.S., I feel like we've been conditioned to see violence and to hear and experience so much craziness that we become callous to it. And so, for those of us that are more skeptical about things, we'd have to see it on a level that we had never seen before for people to realize something bad is going on. We got to do something about this. And then by that time, it's probably far too late or far too late for people to prepare. And so I believe that's where we fall short here. That's our weakness. We tend to be procrastinate things, and then that's when things get really out of control and out of hand. And by that time, that's when we just see a lot of chaos happening all around us. And so I believe that one of these variants, if not more than one, could possibly be really dangerous, potentially, or have the potential to be very dangerous. And I don't trust it, the article, in terms of where they were saying that this, I don't know if this was a physician in Southern Africa. I, I'm I'm going to assume that this came out right after they had imposed a travel ban, because when you do that, when you impose travel bans and you start talking about locking down borders and stuff, you're interrupting to the money flow and the commerce. You're interrupting the businesses that, the trades and things like that. People are worried. They're like, we're not going to buy this from them because we don't know who's sick over there. We're going to slow down on whatever business we're doing with this country because we heard that they're infected, and we're just going to let things sit over there for a while. Didn't that happen? That there was some shipments that had came in and they let it sit because they were afraid to access it because they thought that maybe somebody could have touched it. And, they said this thing could be on surfaces of things. People were afraid. They had to spray things down because they were worried that people could send something over here, and now people are infected because you don't know how long it lives on the surfaces of things. So that's why people started buying Lysol and cleaner and surface cleaner and all these things like that, because viruses do, they can live on the surfaces of things. But see, this virus in particular, this one that they're concerned about, they say this one infects people who actually got the shots. So what does that say about the immunity of the shots that we had? What that says to me is that we've got immunity built up for maybe like the COVID that first came out in 2020, the variant that first came out, or the first couple of variants. But this new one, we haven't built up an immunity to that. And we don't know how it's going to treat us. The other question that I have is, what if you catch one variant of a COVID and then you catch another different one on top of that? How is that going to treat you? Are you going to have mild symptoms from that? Because didn't we hear that some people would catch COVID, they get sick, they bounce back, and they be weak, and then they catch it again, and then they get so sick they end up in the ER, or they end up with pneumonia and die because their immune system is being broken down each time they contract this virus, because it's basically breaking you down, or it's getting you at your vulnerable point. So if you caught it the first time and you were able to kind of bounce back, but you're weak, so now you're still weak. This thing is still floating around out there. You catch it again. You're really at a vulnerable point because you already had it the first time. Then you heard people saying, oh, well, if you got it one time and then you got the shot, then you build up immunity. But that doesn't mean that with these new variants that you will be able to withstand all of that. You're constantly catching these viruses that are being introduced into your body, and the medicines that are in these vaccines may not recognize those. those new variants, there are also um, weaknesses that your body has now because you caught these other viruses. Maybe you have somewhat of an immunity, but that was to the other strains, not these new ones. And so, what maybe one person, like they said, everybody has different body symptoms. Some people have asymptomatic, they don't have no symptoms at all. They don't even know they got it. And you have some people, they end up, like they have to be at home and they have to be on bed rest. And then others, they might die. So I don't think we should be treating this as something lightly because we don't know really how this is going to react to people's bodies. And if it's that transmissible to where it could be a colossal, from what I heard, China said that they could, if they were to open everything back up, their people could be like 630,000 a day could be infected. Anything that spreads that fast, I don't think you should take it lightly. And so for them to cancel these flights and to treat this like this is, they saw something obviously a lot different than what we're hearing in our news feeds.